Hey students, Miss B here just to deliver another lesson and tell you that I miss you very, very much. I hope you are doing well and hope to hear from some of you soon about how your at-home learning is going and maybe even see some of your work. Today we're going to work on another lesson of our phonics and grammar curriculum. And today we are going to learn about suffixes and adjectives and adverbs that compare. So, before you watch this lesson, you might have already done an iReady lesson on these skills, or you will do an iReady lesson and a discovery lesson on these skills Thursday and Friday of this week with some independent work attached. And so, if you have a printer at home, I have attached 2 worksheets that we will begin to do together today. And if you have a printer at home, you can go ahead and print those worksheets off so that you can follow along as we do so. If you do not have a printer at home, that's totally okay. You can just watch. The worksheets will be on the screen and you can use your own pencil and paper to follow along. So, the suffixes that we will be learning about today are less, ness, and able. So we remember when we have a base word and we add a suffix to the end of the word, it changes the meaning. The suffix less means without. Ness means the condition or state of, like goodness is the condition or state of being good. And able means capable of. So today we're going to take a look at some words and add these suffixes to these words to change the meaning. So if you have a pencil at home and a piece of paper, I want you to, in just a second, I'll show you what we're going to do. But before we move on, remember a suffix is added to the end of a word. This is different from a prefix that is added to the beginning. So we're going to sort these words that I show you by the suffix that can be added to them. I want you to be ready to explain the meaning of the new word and even challenge yourself by asking yourself how you can use the new word in a sentence. For example, the first word is use. I know a word or a suffix that I can add to the word use is useless. Like this pencil is useless without an eraser. Another word I can make with the base word use is usable. It did not show you, but I can drop the E and add A-B-L-E. This pencil is usable if it is sharpened and has an eraser. The next word we're looking at is good. Which suffix can you add to good to form a new word? Hint, hint. Miss B already gave this example. Good. You might have formed the new word goodness. Like she has a lot of goodness in her heart. Let's take a look at another one. Imagine. Imagine. Take a second to think about what suffix you can add to the word imagine. What new word did they make by adding a suffix to the word imagine? Imaginable. Good. So we remember the suffix able means able to or capable of. So if something is imaginable, that means it is capable of or able to be imagined. Happy. Happy. Which suffix can you add to the word happy? Go ahead and write it down. Take a minute too to pause this video here and see if you can come up with a sentence using the suffix added to the word happy. Good. Our new word is happiness. Happiness. Like I will have a lot of happiness in my heart when we go back to school. What do you notice happened to the word happy when we added the suffix ness, which is the condition or state of having? What do you notice happened to the word when we changed it from happy to happiness? Good. You might have noticed it dropped the Y and added I before they added the suffix ness. Remember, oftentimes when a word ends in a Y, we drop the Y before we begin to change the word. Happy, happiness. Thought, thought. What suffixes can you add to the word thought? Go ahead and sort your word adding those suffixes. Thoughtless. Remember, the word less means without. So what does the word thoughtless mean? Without thought. Like he was so thoughtless when he decided to break the rules. All right, I'm going to speed through the last couple examples. What I want you to do with these last couple examples is I want you to add the suffix and come up with a sentence for the new word you create. Pause this video in between each word as you add the suffix and come up with a sentence so that you may get as much practice as possible. Clever can change to cleverness, which is the state of being clever. Like can change to the word likable, like my students are very likable people. Breath. Pause the video here to practice doing this yourself. Breath can change to breathless, like he was breathless as he dribbled down the court. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our independent practice. So in front of you, you might have a sheet of paper that looks like this, or you have a blank sheet of paper. If you have a blank sheet of paper, you can still follow along with us as we take a look at the words in this word box and try to fill in our sentences. These words have the suffixes that we just worked with: less, ness, and able. We're going to read each sentence, choose the missing word from the box, and write the word. In order to make sure the sentence makes sense, we're going to reread the complete sentence. So, starting with number 1. Patricia got over her blank when she met the new neighbor's puppy. Patricia got over her blank when she met the new neighbor's puppy. Take a look at these words and see if you can find one that fits well. I'm thinking that word might be shyness. She might have been shy before meeting the neighbors. And shyness means the state of being shy. So she might have got over her shyness when she met the new neighbor's puppy. So if I chose that word, I'm going to cross it out and I'm going to keep going. That story was so blank that I guessed the ending. That story was so blank that I guessed the ending. What is true about the story? If you can guess the ending, it is what? What word with a suffix that we've been learning fits in that blank? Good. Predictable. That story was so predictable that I guessed the ending. That means capable of being predicted. Next one. The newborn chicks are so light that they almost feel what? They almost feel what? They are so light that they almost feel what? Pick a word that fits best in the blank. Good. Weightless. Hopefully you said the word weightless. That means without weight. The newborn chicks are so light that they almost feel weightless or without weight. Number 4, I needed a flashlight to see in the what? This one's way too easy for you guys. I needed a flashlight to see in the darkness. The state of being dark. Or the condition of being dark is what darkness means. Last one that we're going to do together, and then I want you to do 6 through 10 on your own. If you're working with someone there with you, I want you to check your answers by reading the sentences aloud to that person. Number 5 says, since I didn't need a shot, my doctor's visit was what? Since I didn't need a shot, my doctor's visit was, I'm thinking painless, because I know shots are pretty painful. So if he didn't need a shot, the doctor's visit was without pain or painless. Do 6 through 10 on your own, and if you have someone there with you, check your answers with them. Read your sentences back to yourself to make sure they make sense. Pause the video here while you do so. And then we will move on to our grammar scale for today. All right. So for our grammar skill today, we're going to learn about adjectives that compare. So remember, an adjective is a word that describes. Adjectives that end in ER compare two nouns. So Anne stepped on the larger rock. There are 2 rocks here, so they're going to add ER to the end of the word to compare these 2 nouns. In addition, adjectives that end in est or est compare 3 or more nouns. When adjectives end in est, they compare 3 or more nouns. So for example, Leo looked for the largest rock. How many rocks do you see? 1, 2, 3. He looked for the largest of the 3 rocks. This compares 3 nouns. Remember, a noun is a person, place, or thing. And the adjective is the word that describes that noun. If the adjective ends with a Y, we want to change the Y to I before we add ER or EST. So for example, it is a chillier day than yesterday. Before we change this word by adding IER, this word was chilly, CHILLY. We wanted to make that word chillier, so they changed the Y to an I and added ER because they are comparing 2 days, today and yesterday. It is a chillier day than yesterday. In fact, it may be the chilliest day of the year. Now they're comparing 3 or more days. So they changed chilly by dropping the Y, adding I, and then EST. So in just a second together, we're going to read each sentence. We need to first decide if the adjective is describing two or more nouns. Then we're going to click to change the adjective to the correct comparing form. So, for example, Frank used the small bottle of glue. How many nouns is that comparing? How many bottles of glue do you see? 2. So are we going to add ER or EST? ER. So our adjective should change to smaller. Frank used the smaller bottle of glue. Next one. Mr. Cal has a tidy desk than me. How many nouns are they comparing? Mr. Cal and me. Mr. Cal's desk, my desk. Those are two nouns, so what do we need to add to the end of the adjective tidy? Good, ER. So I'm going to spell this word, Tidyer. Does that look right? No, what do we need to do with the word tidy before we add ER? Drop the Y, add the I, and add the ER. Mr. Cal has a tidier desk than me. I can think of a couple people who had tidier desks than others when we were in school. Next one. Adam was the quick runner in the race today. Adam was the quick runner in the race today. So if they were having a race with a ribbon, do you think there were two or more runners? Probably more than two, right? So when three or more nouns, we are talking about what do we need to add to the end of the comparing adjective? Not ER, but EST. Adam was the quickest runner in the race today. This is a hard test than the one we had last week. How many tests are they comparing? This is a hard test than the one we had last week. They're talking about the one they're taking this week and last week. How many nouns is that? 2. So what do we need to add to the end of the adjective? ER. This is a harder test than the one we had last week. I need to find a blank pencil. Change the adjective sharp. I need to find a sharper pencil. Next one. Pause the video in order to practice on your own as we continue to review. This is the windy weather we've had all year. If they're talking about the weather for all year, they're talking about 2 days or more than 2 days. If so, what do you need to add to the end of our adjective windy? This is the windiest weather we've had all year. Notice they dropped the Y, added the I, and the EST because they're comparing 3 or more days of the year. I hope we have sunny skies tomorrow. Changes to, I hope we have sunnier skies tomorrow, because they're probably comparing today and tomorrow, 2 days. So we add IER after dropping the Y. This is the clean window in the whole house. Let's see if they assume there's 2 or 3 or more windows. This is the cleanest window in the whole house. So you know that means they probably have 3 or more windows. They added EST. Y'all are amazing. But before we move on, we're not only talking about adjectives that compare today, we're talking about adverbs. So we know adjectives describe nouns, but adverbs describe verbs. Adverbs that compare two verbs end in ER, similar to the way adjectives that describe two nouns do. And adverbs that end in EST compare 3 or more verbs. For adverbs ending in ly, we use the words more and most. Take a second to think about these rules. Remember, a verb is when you do something or an action. For example, Gavin worked longer than Ellie. They're comparing two people working. So the long is an adverb that describes how they worked. They added ER to the adverb long because they're comparing two people who worked. Gavin worked longer than Ellie. Cassie finished her chores more slowly than Ellie. It would not make sense for this sentence to say Cassie finished her chores slower than Ellie. That sounds just downright silly. So when our verb or our adverb ends in ly, we add more when comparing two or more people completing actions or verbs. Let's take a look at some sentences together and adverbs together that need to be changed to correct the comparing form. We're going to click to read each sentence, then click again to change the adverb. Freddie started his chores early than Mark. What should that adverb read? How many people are they talking about? So we know we need to add the ending ER. EARLYER? Not quite. Remember, similar to before, we drop the Y, add the I, and then add ER. Freddie started his chores earlier than Mark. Next one. He works carefully when the stove is hot. So they're comparing when the stove is hot versus when it is not. Those are two things they're comparing. And remember, our adverb ends in ly. So what should it change to, or what word should be added before carefully? More carefully. He works more carefully when the stove is hot. It would not make sense for you to say he works carefully when the stove is hot. In order to sound like a scholar, we say he works more carefully when the stove is hot. Next one. Katie cleans the board quickly today than yesterday. Comparing 2 days and how she cleaned the board during those 2 days. So we need to add what to the adverb quickly? More quickly. Katie cleans the board more quickly today than yesterday. Remember, pause this video at any time to complete the sentence and try on your own. Then play the video again to check your answer. This was the late Maria ever walked home from school. If we're talking about all the days she's ever walked home from school, do you think we're talking about 2 or more days? 3 or more days? It's going to be a lot of days she probably walks home from school. So what do we add to the adverb late? Good. We add est. Notice it's not spelled Lateest. That verb ended, or adverb ended in an E, so we just added st, or we dropped the E and added est. This was the latest Maria had ever walked home from school. It would not make sense to say this was the later Maria had ever walked home from school. So make sure you are rereading your sentences over to check your thinking. The leaves fall blank rapidly on windy days. The leaves fall rapidly on windy days. You're comparing windy days and non-windy days. The leaves fall more rapidly on windy days. Alex sings beautifully of all the kids in our class. They're comparing all the kids in class, so you know that's 3 or more. What do we need to do with the adverb beautifully? Alex sings the most beautifully of all the kids in our class. So our adverb beautifully ends in ly. That means we do not add an ending to it. We need to add the word most or more. Why did they choose the word most instead of more? Because he's the best of 3 or more kids. Alex sings the most beautifully of all the kids in our class. You are amazing. All right, before we move on, we're going to do a couple of these practice sentences together. And then you will do the rest on your own. It's asking us to write an adjective or adverb to complete each sentence. Then write adjective or adverb to tell about the word or phrase you used. So, Jeff explained the day's events blank, then Ella. They want us to use the word calm. Jeff explained the day's events blank, then Ella. I know that the word that goes in the blank is calmer. I want to add ER because it's comparing 2 nouns, or 2 people, and how they explain the day's events. Now think about what calm describes. It describes how they explained the day's events, which is an action. When we have a word that describes an action, we call that word an adverb. So we're going to put adverb in the blank. Next one. The water at the bottom of the stream was blank than the water on the surface. They want us to use the word murky. They're describing the water in 2 places. So again, I'm going to add the ending ER. Let's see. Notice, this is not the correct way to spell murkier. I need to drop the Y, add the I, and ER. Murky is describing the water at the bottom of the stream. It is not describing an action. It's describing noun. A noun, the water. So is it an adjective or an adverb? It's an adjective, so you should write the word adjective in this blank. Do the same thing for problems 3 and 4, and then I want you to